There's a lot of people listening who are like half in. Any advice to anyone?
This business assuming you commit to it, can change your life so quickly. Like 6 months ago, I was working my W-2 and then just spent almost the whole last month in Hawaii. I mean, This is like where it offers that remote freedom. Again, freedom looks different for everybody. Maybe just dropping your kids off at school and picking them up in the afternoon, spending the days with them, different things like that, not being stressed out. This is the business to do it on. It is, I wouldn't call it easy, but it is simple.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Apke, joined today by one of our students, Landon Bleau. You saw him on a podcast in May. I know a lot has changed. Welcome to the show, Landon.
Yeah, great to be back.
So crazy stuff's happened, I think, in your business as far as we just were talking before we hit record, and you said the reason you quit your job was basically after this podcast, some of the response you got. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it released, I want to say it was like maybe first or second week of May. And I just, a lot of mentors that I, talked to in life and in business and everything like that kind of reached out right after the podcast release. They're basically like, hey, how much are you making at your W-2? And you're going to make, this in land this year. Like you need to fully focus on land. So it was probably maybe 2 weeks after that podcast release, just after taking phone call after phone call, I submitted my 4-week notice at work. I gave them a little bit extra time just because I didn't have to, immediately jump to anything. And then, I've been out since, I think it was the end of June was my last day at my W-2. Wow,
that's wild. That's cool to hear that. I know you're around a lot of people who are quitting their jobs all the time. And I think that coming to reality was really cool. And you started Land in August of 2023. Is that correct or no?
So that's when I joined the course, or I guess, joined the community, but I didn't send my first, it was like almost a year ago to the day that I sent my first mailer.
Wow, that's insane. So you started in October, quit your job in May. What was your goal originally? I know you talked about it in the last podcast. What was your goal for, like, a lot of people come in and I have consultations all the time with people like, I want to leave my job by 2027. And we got to move those dates up. What was your goal initially when you started?
So when I first began, I wanted to make $50,000 in 2024, and the reason was I wanted to be able to quit my job and travel a little bit. And kind of as it progressed and kind of started changing things, I wanted to be able to quit my job by 30, and then ended up doing it 6 months, or I guess it would have been probably 7 months since I really started doing a little bit of land flipping. But yeah, initially when I first started, I wanted to make $50,000.
That's crazy. And how is the year going to turn out? I know you had a goal of buying $1 million of land. I think you passed that. Talk about your goal. And when you're first year in a business, we did it for the land portal and trying to put goals. And it's like, this shit, it's really difficult to line them up because it is such a steep, you can scale up so fast. But talk about your goals that you had. What kind of your goals were as you progress, what your goals were, and how you're looking at those.
Yeah, so again, it kind of kept going up and up. I don't know if anybody that's familiar with the Vivid Vision, I rewrote it like 3 times this year just because things kind of continuously changed. But back, I think when I was on last time, I wanted to be able to hit $1 million in purchase land this year, which I hit maybe a couple months ago or so. And then at this point, I wanted to be able to hit kind of a $1 million profit run rate, which we, in July, we kind of changed all of our marketing to double everything. So we started doing 20,000 mailers per month, 50,000 text, and then we were doing I hired a cold caller, and they do about 10,000 cold calls per month. So that basically let us, it's really hard to project out because just with the election and everything, it's so hard to figure out what's actually going to close this year, what's not. But from deals that we've closed, so we've taken 19 deals full cycle. And then I have another 10 that I've purchased. So we purchased whatever that'd be, 29 deals total this year, sold 19 of those. Of the 10 remaining, I think I have 5 under contract to sell, and then 5 others kind of still listed for sale.
You're busy.
Yeah. So it's been busy, but total projected profit between kind of everything that we've closed. Portion of that obviously realized, some of it's kind of expected based on final closing numbers and then everything. And then a few deals we have under contract to purchase with pretty high expectation to close those, and then fairly confident in our sales price. We should be a little over $800,000 in deal profit, and that would be like kind of my portion of it. So after paying out investors and everything, we probably got close to the $1 million, probably didn't quite hit $1 million in total deal profit this year. But yeah, it'd been probably about $800,000 in gross profit with about maybe $250,000 in kind of operating expenses between, mail, people, on the team, everything like that.
That's wild. That's an amazing first year, obviously. How does that thinking back to where you were 12 months ago, like how does that, as far as like suppressing, sometimes you, and I think Brian talks about it a lot. It's like, just sit back and like look back at what you've done. Like how, when you look back, like how does it make you feel as far as like, I don't know, you should be proud of yourself, like what you've done in such a short period of time.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely insane. I had no idea that, I mean, I knew this was a very high opportunity business, but I had no idea, to what extent it actually was. And then being able to kind of hire people, help a lot of different people in that way too. But yeah, kind of just blew my mind, seeing the numbers. Like I said, I kind of changed my goals throughout the year just because, you'd hit the goal and it's like, well, it's kind of lame to leave that as the same goal through the rest of the year. So let's set another goal to try and hit by the end of the year. So yeah, it was definitely a very interesting year. And then even with that, I still made probably hundreds of mistakes this year, which, if I knew what I knew, know what I know now, back then would have been able to, scale that, well beyond those numbers. But, super excited for kind of the future, the next year's coming.
What are your kind of, like Daniel and I have switched up our like setting goal strategy so much because of what you're saying, as far as it's so hard. Like what's the purpose of the goals? Is it just like a number that you think you can hit? Is a number that's motivating you? Like what's your relationship with goal setting?
Yeah, so I always like the idea of kind of the setting a BHAG, whereas, you almost want it to be like, not quite impossible, but almost want it to be touching impossible. And when I first started this year, I didn't close my first deal on the sales side until like end of April. I want to say so. A lot of this activity has really happened in the last 6 months. But when I first set my initial goal this year, I didn't even really know what goals to set. Like my goal was to buy $1 million, and the reason I set that goal was I thought if I could buy $1 million, I could sell it for $2 million and then profit $1 million. Obviously, in practice, that's not actually how it works. Is you spend, money in marketing. There's just a whole lot of things when you're initially setting these goals that you don't even know about land flipping. But that's where, I basically wanted to set goals that seemed almost impossible, and we've reached those, impossible goals multiple times this year.
Have you set goals for 2025 yet?
Yeah, so 2025, I want to be able to buy $2 million. And this was like kind of soft goals. We're going to do kind of some heavy goal setting here, kind of coming up towards the end of Q4. But it'd kind of be, buy, $2 million, hopefully hit kind of $4 million top line. And then, I guess we'll call it net profit of around $1.5 million for next year.
Wow, that's awesome. And I think that's you'll probably be adjusting those in March or something to 3 million, 5 million, whatever it is. What are kind of Actually, let's back up a little bit. So what does your team look like now? I know we talked a little bit about hiring, that kind of stuff. Have you hired people? What does that look like?
Yep. So I think last time I was on, I had a pricing analyst and then a full-time texter. Since then, I've added an executive assistant and then just recently a salesperson who, I guess kind of generally accepted in the land investing space, kind of an acquisition manager. So it's a person that kind of takes that initial call, asks the standard question, right? Is there electric, sewer, water? Are you the only person on the deed? Why'd you buy the property? Why are you selling? Kind of those initial questions where it's kind of 80% information gathering and then a little bit of rapport. And then I'm kind of doing the closing. So it'd be, I guess a 5-person team right now where I, still kind of taking those sales calls for right now. Would love to outsource that, coming up here in the next year, just to be able to scale up. It's really hard to kind of manage this transaction and everything like that, along with keeping on top of sales and responding to people, very efficiently. So
who are they all United, or are any of them United States based, or
no, not right now?
Okay, so all overseas. So you obviously talked about, you said 10,000 cold calls a month. You said, I think 50,000 texts.
Yep.
20,000 mailers. Is that still what you're at?
Yes.
And what do I think people listening are like, holy crap, that probably is expensive. Like, what are your monthly expenses? Because I know they've scaled up as your business scaled. It's not like Landon started this when he first started sending 20,000 mailers. It's really expensive. But how have those monthly expenses, like what do those look like now? Because it's probably a little overwhelming. I don't know.
Yeah, so I would say we're probably 25 to 30,000 a month.
Yeah.
In operating expenses, and the goal of that would be to hit kind of close to 5 deals, averaging about 25,000. So, if you're spending 25,000, make 125,000, obviously netting, about 100,000 a month is kind of the goal. Now in practice, it's hard to tell because we kind of ramped up that marketing in July, and there's obviously a little bit of a lag period between when you kind kind of ramp up that marketing and actually start realizing those efforts. Just because you ramp up marketing, it's going to take a month to hit mailboxes, and a month to close those deals, month to sell them. So still not quite realizing the fruits of increasing that yet. But yeah, that was kind of the goal for what our lead measures are.
Yeah. So, and that's including your employee expenses?
Yes, exactly.
So talk about building a team, because a lot of people, it is overwhelming, like hiring people, and you've hired 5 relatively fast. Talk about building a team, like lessons you've learned maybe from hiring, from managing people. I don't know if you've had to fire anyone yet. What does that look like?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that I guess international employees aren't as good as them. I would say the employees that I have internationally are better than what I would be at that respective position. So the texter that I had came in with a lot more experience than I did with launch control, and he was teaching me a lot of different things on different follow-up campaigns, different drip automations that he had in the past, things like that. My pricer was probably the only position that I really had to kind of extensively train, with probably tens, if not hundreds of hours of different Loom videos, just, teaching on the front end and then reviewing a lot of the counties that they priced. My executive assistant kind of manages my inbox right now. So, she was very, very familiar with that process. And you can get someone with, decades of experience in that, specific position. Obviously, you have to train them a little bit for land. But otherwise, she's very good kind of keeping our CRM updated so that the salesperson can kind of call. And then the salesperson actually just hired them a couple of weeks ago. So again, they're kind of be getting on those initial calls with people, just because again, it's kind of a speed to lead thing, especially with competition potentially increasing a little bit, more people coming into the space. We want to get back to people very quickly, so that's kind of the training there is it's really just a script that they're following. But again, goal there is kind of get people on the phone within about 10 minutes of them responding to us, either via text or mail.
Do you think these employees right now, like there's a ramp period where you're ramping employees up where it's probably not scaling your business up yet, but it's saving you some time? Are you getting to the point where like their skill set is scaling your business and taking it to the next level?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with again, I think one of the main positions in a business, or at least land flipping specifically, is going to be the texter. My texter is phenomenal. He's constantly getting different leads, pushing into the CRM in different things like that. But yeah, I think the executive assistant was a big hire for me. Where it's just I don't have to kind of look at my email inbox. They kind of tell me, potentially where I need to be, when I need to be there, different emails that are coming through. A lot of times I'll get an email on a lead, or, someone maybe submits a counter offer to me, different things like that. And they can quickly push it to the CRM, which beforehand I was not. My organization skills just aren't there. So having that position, was super beneficial and has very much allowed me to focus on kind of sales, which I think is the driver of the business here.
100%. So you have the salesperson doing the initial calls, and then you're doing some after that as far as like closing the deal?
Exactly. Yep. So they kind of almost like an appointment setter role.
So are they going to scale up to doing any of the closing, or would that be an American-based employee?
Yeah, I think that's going to be an American-based employee. I think it's hard to, again, I think that's the most important part of, the land business is that closing role. And I think it's, again, I think you had said it on a podcast, maybe that just released today, where it's, you can pay for one of those employees' annual salary in one good deal. So it just makes sense to kind of go, I think with, someone with kind of a sales experience background in the United States specifically.
That executive assistant role, it's one I've never hired because like the training aspect is, I don't know, to me it's like, I don't know, I would have them doing probably like running my life more, calendar, everything like that. Is that what they're doing? I know it's probably from Dan Martell. I know Brian has interviewed Dan Martell as far as that. Talk about that role in a little more detail, because it's not an expensive role to hire, and maybe you got to convince me to hire one, but it's just one that I haven't pulled the trigger on yet.
Yeah, so it's a position where you really need to trust them, because they're going to see your email inbox. There is a way that you can put kind of a read-only way for them to actually see your email inbox. I just gave mine my login, my password, everything like that, so they kind of have access to that. They have the access to my calendar. If different things in the calendar change throughout the day, they're pinging me. I use Discord primarily, but you could use WhatsApp or a lot of different means of communication there. But yeah, it's a position that, again, if you're my weakest point is probably organization. There's been a lot of times where I have multiple closings in a week, and trying to schedule all that out is just not a strength of mine. So having that person there to kind of tell me what's closing on what day, and then just a lot of my deals now, or I guess not deals, a lot of leads now come through that email inbox. So it'd be pushing that to the CRM and then getting someone to respond to that quickly.
How long have they been with you?
So the salesperson would have been not quite 2 weeks now.
What about the executive assistant?
The executive assistant, I want to say it's probably 2 months now.
Yeah.
So again, it was, obviously it is a lot of training where it's like, hey, if this type of email comes in, this is what you do with it. A lot of Loom videos, but if you kind of train them for, I call it a few days to, a couple of weeks. And then again, obviously things are going to change kind of as it progresses. So continuously kind of giving them feedback for different things you need.
Sometimes do you think hiring employees brought more stress on some aspects of the business, managing people, being responsible for, because it's their well-being. Like, it's not like they're not expensive in our terms as far as like overseas employees a lot of times, but at the same time, like, it's a livable wage that we're paying them and it's their livelihood. But as far as like stress, is it increased with employees and that kind of stuff as you scale up?
Yeah, I would say so. I think one of the hardest things, it's hard to, I guess, keep them busy in some ways. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say it's definitely stressful in terms of, you want to, if something's going wrong, typically I look at myself first, like, what am I doing wrong? It's kind of the Jocko where it's like extreme ownership. If they mess something up, it's probably because I lacked, it was my fault for not training them or setting the proper expectations. So it's been a lot of that for me, where I still haven't fired an employee yet. I'm not saying I'm the greatest hire or person hiring or anything like that. It's more so, if I'm not setting the proper expectations for them, then it's 100% on me if they're not doing it.
Yeah, we've had such in the last 2-3 months, we've hired so many people. And one thing that I realized, and I said it in one of our meetings last week to our team, and whatever, we have 15 employees now. And I said, like, one thing that I was struggling with is when a new employee starts, it's almost like it's 100% them. And then, like, I forget, like, oh crap, they started 3 weeks ago also. And then, so we've had 4 employees that we've hired in the last 6 weeks or so. So like the newest employee gets the attention, then you're like, okay, they're not fully trained either. And that's something that I really slacked on. You just got back from Hawaii. I mean, I assume land, was that a celebration of land? Was that a celebration of like what this year's been? Talk about that, and you're able to just do this business from, I don't even know what the time zone is. Is it 5 hours before East?
6 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Which made it really tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, the goal of Hawaii was basically, anybody familiar with Brian or Action Academy, he wants you to do like some big thing after you quit your job to make it somewhat memorable. And my wife had a contract at the time that I had quit that had basically gone through, close to the end of September. So yeah, we left, I think it was end of September or beginning of October. And we're there for, I think we were there 3.5 weeks. So not quite a month there, but kind of just bounced around island to island. But yeah, the hardest part of that was obviously still trying to run the land business where it was 6 hours behind. So there was quite a few, I think we had 7 sales or 7 different transactions, some buy and then I think mostly sell while we were there. But there was a lot of times where I'd have a notarization at 6 o'clock in the morning. So it was that was the most difficult thing, whereas wake up at 5 o'clock there and it's already 11 a.m. here. We haven't got back to the leads that had called in or texted earlier that morning. That was the hardest part about it. But I think it opened up a lot, my eyes to like, Hormozy basically says if you can't leave your business for 6 months and it, grows without you, then you don't have a business. That kind of really showed me that, what positions I need to hire, because if I woke up and I was stressed about this specific thing continuously, like that's a position that I should be hiring for. And that's exactly why I basically listed the position and hired the position while I was in Hawaii for that sales role, just because I want to get back to people very quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, being able to travel, I think celebrating things like that is important. And Brian does a good job, obviously, pushing you guys to do that. Is your wife still working?
Yeah, so we're looking at our next contract now, probably Florida, but we're not sure. But that'll probably be 2 weeks. So we're back in Toledo for now. But she's helping out on the business a bit too, really? With a lot of email management and stuff like that, kind of helping the executive assistant with that as well, and then just kind of helping keep, I guess, just the overall life organized too.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a lot. You guys have been traveling, and you guys have traveled for years, or how long have you guys been traveling as far as for your wife's job for doing that?
Yeah, so as soon as we got married, so it would have been September of 2023. So since then we've
couple
been
weeks
home for probably 2 weeks since then.
Because last time you were here, you were leaving for Cape Cod. I don't know how long. Were you there for a month or less than a month?
Yeah, we were there from May through the end of September. So 4 or 5 months. Yeah,
that was a nice home. I think you said you got a place on the beach there.
Yeah. You want to talk about expensive though? Yeah. Cape Cod during the summer. It was an incredible place, beach town. But perfect weather. I mean, it was awesome there.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit more of like the future of the land business as far as what you've seen. You've been in it a year. Like, let's say you sent your first mailer, you learned 14 months ago. But the thing is, and I tell everyone this, some people's year of experience is like 2 weeks of experience. Some people's year of experience is like 6 years. And you're probably on that higher end. Like, okay, you've done so much. You've sent so much mail, so much text, so much experience. But talk about kind of what your thoughts are on the future land business, what direction you think it's going, how it's changed since you've been a part of it.
Yeah, so I'd say people are getting more mail, and that's one of the main questions I get a lot is like, is this a sustainable business? Like, is there a future in land? I've gotten to the point now where we've bought enough properties that we're actually starting to get a lot of these mailers, people offering to buy the land, and it's obviously the same process. But I call them all up. And I basically want to see their sales process and see, how good they are. I think I got maybe 3 over probably the last 2 or 3 weeks. Obviously called them all. 2 of them haven't responded. And then one person, when they called me, they just left a voicemail, no follow-up or anything. So I think there's more people mailing, but I don't think there's more competition.
Yeah.
I think if you do your marketing and you kind of are good at sales, like that's all you really need. And mail still works. I'm seeing people, I listen to a lot of different podcasts. And if you're doing pure mail, I'm hearing the numbers, now it's over 5,000 mailers to get a deal. I'm currently with mail and a follow-up text, I'm at about 1 deal for every about 3,500 mailers still, which includes follow-up text. And I still get deals just purely based off mail. So I think a lot of people think that this is like super oversaturated, thinking this is like, I think we can all probably agree that wholesaling is probably the most saturated. There's still people in wholesaling making 7 figures a year.
Yeah.
So, if you have good systems, processes, really all you need to do is be good at marketing and then kind of crush sales when people actually call them back.
I think that's what people don't understand. And I try to explain it to people, and it's like, you got to realize a lot of people are doing marketing, and I see it from people in our community too, who are doing marketing and just not doing anything else. And then they're always blaming external things. And that's something when you came to us or when you were here in May, like you didn't have any excuses external. Like, I'm trying to learn the business. I'm trying to make adjustments, everything like that. And there's not like it's not external. It's internal as far as your processes, your systems, how you're talking to people on the phone. You said you received 2 or 3 and you only got 2 responses, or you said you got 1 response. One response and they didn't have any follow-up. Like, that is the business model, is having a follow-up so that you can actually talk to sellers. But yeah, I've talked about it a lot as far as having multiple avenues of marketing for sure. And I think without doing follow-up text, I think it will hurt. I also think, what are your thoughts on like project-based stuff in the future, that kind of stuff? I think it's a big, like, it doesn't be, you don't have to build houses, just simple project-based things. Have you done anything like that, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so ironically, I just signed up for, it was last week or a couple weeks ago. I'm doing, it's a coaching program surrounding entitlements.
Nice.
So I really think that'll be interesting. But yeah, there's entitlements. There's, you could fix title issues, deed issues. There's, landlocked properties. I think everybody now using, land portals, probably filtering out the landlocked properties. Mm-hmm. There's probably an opportunity there in specific states. You can kind of force access. So you can get an easement in different situations. There's obviously tons of subdivided potential, development potential, changing the zoning. So there's so many different kind of niches within land investing where you don't just have to buy it 40 cents on the dollar and sell for 95 cents on the dollar. But yeah, I have my first subdivide opportunity. I think we're actually closing potentially tomorrow. But that'll be, buy for like a 45, I think, and sell for close to 100 after we split it up a little bit. But yeah, entitlements, those are obviously long-term plays. Mm-hmm. So it's, typically could be 18 to 24 more months. But I think average around 18 months for an entitlement. But yeah, that's kind of where I see is there's, there's not a big barrier to entry within land. I think the main, barrier to entry is kind of comping. Yeah. But there's then so many niches you can go to, within land investing that provides so much more opportunity.
I think one thing, and Daniel and I have talked about it recently, I think one thing people don't put enough focus on is investor relationships. As far as getting not necessarily always cheaper money, but just having access to capital. Because like Dylan's one person, for example, who's like, if you can buy something for $400,000 cash, there's not many people who can follow through with sending a letter that and actually get someone cash within that speed. Talk about investor relationships, how it's kind of the importance of it in your business? I don't know if you're funding, how much you're funding yourself versus outsourcing. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I would say I probably am 50-50 right now.
Okay.
And my strategy initially coming in was rather than list at, I think probably 95 cents on the dollar, probably maybe 90 cents. I actually listed lower so that I could kind of turn the money quicker. So if I was, maybe 85% of market value, because I was primarily, using my own capital to fund these. And then if I could get them turned around in, a month, then obviously it'd be better to do that than kind of bring an investor on that could take, 20%, 30%, 50%, 75%, something like that of the total profits. But I listened to, when I was kind of listening to the different investor pitches, I've listened to a lot of multifamily people that are kind of raising for different syndications, because I think that's the way that just the way that the cadence that they're communicating with their investors, the information that they're giving them, the information they're giving them beforehand to make them comfortable with that investment. I followed a lot of that same methodology, and now I have probably 5 different go-to investors that could fund, a few $100,000 tomorrow if I needed it.
Each?
Yeah.
So
probably total. I could probably get $600,000 to $700,000 in investing within like the next few weeks.
That's huge to be able to do that. And I think a lot of people, like, we'll fund bigger $500,000 deals, stuff like that. But as far as like being able to get some cheaper money options, where it might be hard money, might be a little more risk, that's where you can do those subdivides and have buy for 500, sell for 800, because that's a good margin. Like in anything else, wholesaling, all these, like they're trying to buy for 700, sell for 750. Have you done any double closing?
Yeah, so I've only done one so far, but that's a big thing that I want to kind of focus on in 2025 is a lot more double closing, just because a lot of the opportunities I had this year, I kind of just passed just because I had enough flips going. But the thing with double closing is you don't ever need to fund it, or if you do need to fund it, it's very quickly. So the only double close I did, it was buy for 150 and sold it for 187. So it was a quick little, I think after, all fees and everything, I think I ended up with 34,000. So it was a great little deal to, have for the year. But yeah, that's definitely something I want to focus on in 2025 a lot more.
Yeah, so many, and I think training your salesperson, so many people are trying to get so much more than what we offer, but it's somewhere in between what we offer, 50% of market value, 40% of market value, and 100%. And being able to buy for, 150, that's buying for 80% of market value, essentially 150 to 187 or whatever you said. You've been coaching some students for us, as far as you've been doing some coaching for some new people for us. How has that been?
Good. I think so many people don't value coaching or use it to the best of their ability. I'll probably invest between masterminds and coaching this year. I'll probably invest $25,000 to $30,000. That entitlement coaching, I just signed. That was, I think, $15,000 was the price tag on that. But coaching all comes down to opportunity cost. If it's going to take me 5 years to figure out how to do an entitlement deal, but I could pay them $15,000 and then close 5 deals between now and that 5-year period and make millions of dollars. Why would I not spend a little bit of money now to be able to kind of use that and get their knowledge, get all their work, their expertise. So coaching is basically, obviously, it's going to help you not make as many bad decisions or kind of prevent you from making a lot of the bad decisions, but it's also going to really help you focus on what's most important. And then again, it's the opportunity cost. Like the first person I started coaching, Devin, he's under his first agreement right now. It's a 6-figure deal. It'll be buy for 100, sell for over 200,000.
You never told me this.
Yeah, so he had got it under contract. I want to say maybe just this last week or so.
Love it.
But that's the thing with coaching, where it's the value you get is many multiples versus what you actually invest.
If you put the money in the right spot,
Exactly.
absolutely. There's some people out there that make sure you're putting makes you vet coaches, everything like that. It's so important. That's really cool. And when Daniel reached out to you probably like a month, 6 weeks ago, as far as like seeing the success of your coaching students, like it was like everyone who was taking action was getting deals. Is that correct? In a 90-day period?
Yeah. So it's basically, the number one thing, if you're not marketing, you're not getting any deals. So we pretty much hit the ground running. Everybody from day one, our average basically from not even starting the course to sending mail was about 9 days. So they completed the course, completed kind of the state analysis on, some people did the entire state, every county and state. Some people just picked a few, but they were getting sending mail in 9 days. So then it's, 20 days after that, you start answering phone calls, can obviously review those together, and then put these things under agreement. But yeah, I think most or about half of them had gotten a deal or something under contract in kind of that 90-day coaching.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I think it expedites. That's what I've seen with everyone. They're investing a little more as far as in their education, but you get one-on-one help, and the value of that, I think, is that you can't really calculate. If that 5,000, if Devin, for example, if he bought coaching and he wouldn't have got that $100,000 deal if it wasn't for coaching, like that's it's a ton of value that is missing out without a doubt. What's your advice for people like looking to get into this business? I'm sure you talk to a good amount of people like looking to get into the business. What are your advice for people looking to get into it?
Yeah, I would say I think it's not too hard to get into it, obviously, but there's a lot of people that I've talked to getting into it and then are out within like the same month, within one failed mailer, two failed mailers. Hey, I only got 2 calls back, and they were both, super ticked off that I, send them a offer below market value. You don't make a business off of 1 or 2 deals. Even like Devin's deal, $100,000. That's not going to last him the rest of his life, right? You're not making a business off of 1 or 2 deals. So you need to come into the business. Again, there's still so much opportunity. A lot of people thinking this is wholesaling where it's totally saturated. Again, there's wholesalers still making a lot of money out there. And land is a substantially better opportunity than that. So if you come into the business, commit to this business. Do not just come in and say you're going to try 1 mailer or 2 mailers or have, $1,000 and that's all I'm going to give to this. You need to come in with a little bit of money or partner up. There's a lot of people that I've seen where that partner up for kind of the first deal. Maybe they're lacking capital, but someone else has capital and they're lacking time. They can be, kind of that missing piece for the person with capital. Provide the time, get maybe a couple of deals with that person, basically get rid of the partnership then, and then take it on their own. So I think it's a lot of people will come in with unreasonable expectations just because they hear these podcasts and what's possible. Again, pretty much all that happened in my business happened within like the last 6 months. The first 6 months was miserable. I thought I was so far in the red that people just come in with unreasonable expectations. So I think it's setting expectations and then committing to this. This is a business that's going to be years and years, and you need to commit to that.
In this business, it's not hard to lose $10,000 in this business because you spend $10,000, you quit. It is hard to lose like 50, which 50 grand is a ton of money. Don't get me wrong, but it's hard to lose 50 grand in this business because you just have to literally do nothing correct, and it's so much marketing, so much opportunity out there. If you stick to it, like you said, the first 6 months are not enjoyable for many people. There's so much education, there's so much learning and growth there, but it's not a fun Maybe if you look back at it, you're like, okay, that was fun. I was learning. that was. I'm proud of myself for fighting through that because it's so easy to quit in those situations. I know you talked about it a ton in the first time you were here, so go back and watch that, guys. But talk about that a little bit more, just the grind of the first 60, 90 days where you have education plus action, a lot going on.
Yeah, that's where it's so tough. It's the goals that I was setting, buy $1 million. It wasn't even really looking back now, it wasn't even really a good goal to have. So it's just so much unknown. But that's the thing where, even to the point where up a couple months ago, I had done nothing different than what was taught in the course. Started working on subdivides after kind of the road frontage filter on the land portal and everything like that. And now just started to potentially do some entitlements. But there was nothing that I did different in kind of that first, I guess 9 months really than what was taught in the course. But again, it's the first, I don't think I got my first deal until February, I want to say is when I bought it and then didn't sell it till April. So, I started spending money in October. 6 months later is when I first made my, first dollar in revenue. But the thing is, it's such a high profit potential in this business that first deal basically paid off of almost all the money that I had spent over those 6 months. Maybe it paid off everything. But yeah, it's tough at the beginning where you just need a community to surround yourself where you can kind of see other people. There's not a ton of people that have kind of the first success on that first mailer. I've known very few people. I think there was one person that I know of that got a couple of deals out of that first mailer. But a lot of, the odds of your first mailer failing, probably pretty high. But if you do 10 mailers, you're probably going to get a deal out of it as long as you're kind of crushing the sales as people call back. So yeah, it's tough. The thing is you just got to commit to it. It's the same thing with any other business, right? You're not going to know exactly how to run it the first day. If you buy a business or start any other type of business, there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. But the cool thing is, with Land Investing Online, you got the community that you can bounce ideas off of. You can take your deals to you and Dan Anthony on the Monday and Wednesday reviews, any general questions on Friday. So having that community is so, so important.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's so many people rely on that from the start. And the people who like you've had people who haven't made it in the coaching, people who just haven't applied. Like you need to get marketing out there, and people who just don't send marketing, you have no chance in this business. But using the community, listening to stories like you, most of the people that sit in the chair that you're in, like went through the same thing. First 3 months were it sucked. First 5 months might have sucked. And then it just like clicks and it turns over, and then you can just more confidence with everything you're doing, more speed. And just like the learning curve also reduces the amount of time it takes for every task. Like you said, comping is one of the more difficult things, and being able to reduce the amount of time it takes, you can throw out a deal probably in 5 seconds right now. You know what I mean? You like look at it, you're like, no, we're not doing that. Don't call that, like whatever it is, whatever your process is for that. So that's really good to hear. Talk about the land portal a little bit, what you've kind of implemented in your business. You said you're going over after some road frontage. Is that helping with entitlement stuff as well? What's your kind of strategy there?
Yeah, so entitlement, truthfully, I got to start the kind of education that they have in startups, but the subdivide opportunities that I've seen come across, it's insane. Some of the, I was actually looking last time I was on this podcast just before, I kind of knew that the road frontage, I was going to hire a person specifically to go look at road frontage. And now obviously you just click a button and put kind of your minimum road frontage that you need in there. But the land that you can see and market to, and then, you can try different types of marketing, but it's so easy now to get great data in great plots of land that you're actually, looking at and reviewing. It's so easy to actually pick those markets, and then you can be very, very specific kind of sniper approach with the different marketing that you're doing. You're saving tons of money in mailers. So many of the leads I was getting back before were landlocked properties, or, I still get a lot of slope deals, but now with the, new slope feature, it's just saving you. I mean, it's probably saved me tens of thousands of dollars in marketing to bad properties that I would have thrown out anyways.
Yeah. I think it's makes you more efficient, obviously, with your marketing. And that's what I realized like 3 months ago. I'm like, whenever I'm doing deal reviews and stuff, I'm like, okay, all this land is good. Like, I love reviewing the deals. It's like, I can't throw stuff out very fast when I'm doing deal reviews with the members. And that's why, because they're not sending to landlocked properties. But like you said, like that might open up an opportunity for going after landlocked properties in some areas. And I'm sure someone will take advantage of that niche. Have you done any survey hacking or looked into survey hacking at all?
No, so that's what I was actually looking into with Devin. He was really looking into it a lot, and that's something I would love to go, because I think there's a lot of people like untapped in a way. It's almost like, think back to like, 2018 for land flipping. It's like that opportunity right now with survey hacking. People that might have never gotten a mailer probably didn't ever get a mailer, and you're just, it is hard to kind of create a mailer, but I think there's specific things you can do with marketing, maybe a postcard, maybe kind of neutral letters, blind offers might be a little hard to do, but I think there's, cold calling, cold text, there's different ways to market to them. But I think it's like, again, like I said, 2018 for land flipping is like right now for that survey hacking.
So is that deal Devin is doing, is that a survey hack?
That's a subdivide.
Okay.
Not a survey hack, but he was starting to market to some survey hacking opportunities.
I think it's I don't know if anyone's gone, I've talked to some people, I don't know if anyone's gone like all in, not like 100% of your business, but I don't know if anyone's gone like really into it. I know Devin might be one of the first people that starts attacking those, and anyone can be a seller for those because you can buy any portion of the land. You just got to cut it off to make it make sense. You get them money. It's more value than us buying the whole property for 50% of market value. Now we're buying those 5 acres. They keep 95% of land, whatever it is. And I just think the value there, if you can provide more value to sellers, I think it's going to work out. That's why giving cash to people in 2 weeks is better than giving cash to people in 90 days or double closing or giving an assignment. It's providing value to the sellers is how you make this business sustainable. Do you agree?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it's, they're not even using the property. So if you start, kind of with the, just offering what they could buy and said, hey, you could pay off your mortgage. Hey, you could buy a brand new vehicle or a new truck. Hey, you could, it's coming up Christmas time. You could buy a whole lot more gifts for different people, donate them, your kids, grandkids, anything like that. There's just, for land that you're not even using anyways, I think it's a blue ocean right now for survey hacking.
100%. And there's always going to be niches coming up, like entitlements, subdividing. There's always things. That's the coolest thing about land. But I really appreciate you coming here, Devin. I just said Devin again. I really appreciate you coming here, Landon. Is there anything else you want to tell any viewers, anything like that about the business? Because there's a lot of people listening who are like half in. Maybe they started the course and they're not doing anything. Maybe they haven't paid for any education or anything like that. Any advice to anyone?
Yeah. So again, this business assuming you commit to it, can change your life so quickly. Like a year ago, I was working my 6 months ago, I was working my W-2 and then just spent, almost the whole last month in Hawaii. I mean, this is like the exact, we're recording this Monday at noon. This is the exact life that I wanted to live. I committed to land flipping. It was the exact business that I wanted to do, where it offers that remote freedom and then so much scaling potential, offers different niches. It's very low competition. Again, there might be more people mailing right now. I'm not really considering those people competition, just the way that I've seen some people, lack kind of that sales process. But if you really want to kind of just have some sort of business right now where you can have that remote freedom, or just freedom to, again, freedom looks different for everybody, as you were kind of mentioning on some of these, recent calls. Maybe it's just dropping your kids off at school and picking them up in the afternoon, spending the days with them, different things like that, not being stressed out. This is the business. Like, it's such a small investment to kind of buy the course, join the community, be surrounded by all these different people. And again, you're going to be able to ask all these different questions and everything like that. So, if this is something, you potentially want to get out of a W-2 job, or maybe you want to keep your W-2 job and just have a little bit of extra income to spend in a year, this is the business to do it on. It is, I wouldn't call it easy, but it is simple.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm proud of you. It's awesome where you've been in just a short period of time, like 12 months. And like you said, 12 months isn't a lot of time, but you can make a lot of shit happen in 12 months. Other than that, guys, thanks again, Landon, for coming on. If you guys are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below. If you're watching on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, share it on your Instagram story. Thanks again, Landon. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.